Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody said an inconvenience. He have a responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the president is going through that process right now. And let's be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo.
What happens when a congressman actually asks the questions the American people want answered? In today's video, Byron Donalds absolutely lights up Democrat governors who can't explain where billions of taxpayer dollars are going, and the answers, or lack of them, are stunning. If you love honest, America First commentary that doesn't back down, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video.
Chair, I recognize Mr. Donalds from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. To piggyback off my colleague, Governor Pritzker, how much does the state of Illinois spend on illegal immigration every year?
Again, illegal immigration, that's a federal responsibility. They could tell how much is wasted as a result of their failures.
Governor, don't you keep track of how many people are on your Medicaid rolls, how many people who are illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois who are getting actually benefits in your state? Doesn't your government keep track of that?
They don't get Medicaid in Illinois or any state as far as I know.
Governor Pritzker, you do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget, and we're very closely. And in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem. Governor Hochul, in your state, you are spending about roughly $4 billion on illegal immigration. And at the same time, you are actually asking the federal government for $4 billion to finish Penn Station. Don't you think it would be better to stop funding illegal immigrants in your state and actually use those resources to finish Penn Station as opposed to coming to the federal government for the money?
Penn Station is owned by Amtrak, not by the state, so it's an appropriate use of their dollars, and Donald Trump has agreed to spend upwards of $7 billion. I appreciated that very much. What we spend on immigrants, the immigrants who are here hardworking to live a life and working on our farms and taking care of our parents in nursing homes and taking care of our children, they have been coming here for 400 years. And we don't keep track of individuals based on their status. We make sure that people have services so we don't end up with an unexpected.
So essentially what you're telling me is that you keep no track of money that is going to people who are not legal in the United States, resources that are taken away from New Yorkers, resources that are taken away from Illinoisans. You guys do not keep track of any of this.
You know what's really challenging is that many people came here with legal status. I mean, temporary protective status, 300,000.
All of
a sudden they wake up one day and it's gone.
Do you go along with the strategy from the Biden administration, which massively expanded immigration protocols that overwhelmed your city and overwhelmed your state? Do you agree with that?
We call for secure borders. We call for this body to
I never remember you calling for secure borders at all, Governor Hochul.
We certainly have.
That doesn't sound like him to my memory.
Many conversations I had with the White House. We asked for federal resources. I mean, you're putting a federal problem on our laps, and you know what? It gets old after a while. I wish you would just do your job.
If your party actually would do the job of securing the nation the way President Trump has now had to do twice, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Wouldn't you agree? Do you agree or disagree that securing the nation's borders is the job of the President of the United States? President Trump has done that job twice now.
Well,
and previous Democrat presidents have not done that job. Wouldn't you agree with that?
This has been a problem that's been in place since I was a young staffer here on Capitol Hill. We worked on immigration, and Ronald Reagan signed amnesty for 3 million people.
You know, it's interesting you bring up Reagan's amnesty in '86. You know, part of that deal was to actually build border wall and secure it. But the Democrat Party refuses to build border wall. You oppose it every single time. Is that your position? Do you now support border walls?
There has been many times when bipartisan legislation is presented to this body, and people just walk away from it. They refuse to do the hard work of governing like governors like us have to do every single day. When I leave here, I'm going to go home and govern a state. I'm not going to tweet about this experience because I have too much work to do taking care of New Yorkers. And
you're really not doing a good job, Governor Hochul, because a lot of New Yorkers are actually coming into my state. In Florida, many of them, they come all the time because they actually want to come to a state that is well run, that protects citizens, does not allow illegal aliens to victimize citizens like they are victimized in the state of New York, like they are victimized in the state of Illinois, like they are victimized in the state of Minnesota. They choose states like Florida and Texas to find safer places to live and raise their families. Hold on, Governor Hochul. We've had enough time.
Crime rates are much
Governor
lower
Waltz,
than
you've been
yours.
sitting over
Much
there pretty
lower.
quiet. I got a question for you.
I love to talk. Thank you, Congressman.
Fair enough. You said earlier that the ICE agents under the orders of President Trump are a modern-day Gestapo. Do you realize how disgusting a phrase that is, considering the history of Nazi Germany? Would you like to recant that statement?
What I said, Congressman, and I have a long history of supporting law enforcement, I said President Trump was using them as his modern-day Gestapo, not identifying who you are, coming up in unmarked vans, taking people away and giving—
Is it the responsibility of ICE to actually deport illegal aliens in the United States who are here? Isn't that their responsibility?
Yes, it is, Congressman, except that the Constitution is not an inconvenience. It's not an either-or.
Nobody said an inconvenience.
You
He have a responsibility to deport illegal aliens, and the president is going through that process right now. And let's be very clear, the previous administration, they abused every process there is under border laws to allow more than 10 million people into the country illegally. And this is a burden on all Americans. And so the president is doing his job. So it is sick to refer to Americans who are ICE agents as Gestapo. Governor, you're wrong. You need to apologize to these agents. They're doing their jobs. They are Americans. They serve this country with honor and decency and respect. Do not diminish their work simply because you tried to make a cheap point that you could tweet. I yield back.
Let's get into this, because this hearing was a masterclass in accountability. Byron Donalds walked into Congress prepared, calm, and armed with facts, and the Democrat governors on that panel clearly were not ready. The core issue here is illegal immigration and the massive financial burden it's placing on American citizens, especially at the state level. Donald starts by pressing Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker with a very simple question. How much is your state spending on illegal immigration every year? And instead of a number, we get deflection. It's a federal responsibility. That answer alone tells you everything. These governors want the moral high ground without doing the math, and Donalds wasn't having it. He followed up by asking whether Illinois even tracks how many illegal immigrants are receiving public services. Again, no clear answer. If you're spending taxpayer money but can't tell taxpayers where it's going, that's not leadership, that's negligence. Then Donalds turns up the heat on New York Governor Kathy Hochul. He points out that New York is spending roughly $4 billion dealing with illegal immigration, while at the same time begging the federal government for billions more to finish Penn Station. Donalds makes a common-sense argument. Maybe take care of your own priorities instead of sending the bill to the rest of the country. Hochul responds by saying New York doesn't track services by immigration status and claims immigrants have been coming here for centuries. That may sound compassionate, but it completely dodges the issue of accountability and legality. This is where Byron Donalds really exposes the problem. These governors admit, openly, that they don't track how much money is going to people who are not legally in the United States. That means resources are being diverted away from American citizens, veterans, seniors, and working families, and no one in charge can even give you a spreadsheet explaining it. Donalds also nails the bigger picture. Border security is the responsibility of the president, and for years Democrat administrations refused to enforce the law. Over 10 million people entered the country illegally, overwhelming cities and states, and now those same governors are pointing fingers instead of owning their party's failures. When Reagan's amnesty comes up, Donalds reminds everyone that border security was supposed to be part of that deal, a promise Democrats never kept. The most powerful moment comes when Donalds confronts Minnesota Governor Tim Walz over his comment comparing ICE agents to the Gestapo. That comparison is not just wrong, it's disgusting. Donalds rightly defends ICE agents as Americans doing a lawful job, protecting this country and enforcing immigration law. Calling them Nazis for political points is reckless and insulting, and Donalds demands accountability on the spot. And here's the truth the media doesn't want to say out loud. States like Florida and Texas are seeing an influx of Americans fleeing places like New York and Illinois, not because of weather, but because of safety, governance, and respect for the law. People vote with their feet, and the results speak for themselves. This hearing wasn't about sound bites or tweets. It was about exposing the cost of open border policies and the refusal of Democrat governors to be honest with the American people. Byron Donalds didn't raise his voice, he raised the standard. And that's exactly what leadership looks like.